future has changed so much over the last 50 years. It is a momentous occasion because we are stepping into a new era.
First Nations people have been talking to us, and we are listening to their voices because they have such a profound attachment to the earth.
I think it's time. I think it's time we really started understanding that as we move forward, we need to do so together.
And we're going to be building a great future for our people.
Time once again for another episode of Voices of Shishalh with your host, Chief Calvin Cragen, and his steadfast announcer, Michael Morgan. These are enjoyable moments for viewers, and we've had quite a bit of feedback. And what they enjoy, Chief, most of all, is hearing your stories of your nation. And one of the stories, the next one, is the unveiling of the residential school monument. And I think a lot of people, certainly in my presence, doctors, psychiatrists, all kinds of medical people, are terribly interested in how you personally were able to recover because you were a residential school student. So this monument must have a deep resonance for you.
Unfortunately, it does. What it represents is a government or a people taking away the very tradition and the way of life from another people. And it was not only criminal, but it was devastating to our people. But one of the things that they accomplished, or almost accomplished to do, was to take away our culture. And that culture was not only an art form, but it was a way of life, of spirit healing. And when I talk about spirit healing, I'm talking about meditations and diet and disciplines whereby our people took care of mind, body, and spirit. And many of us have gone back to do that. Some people have been doing it 40, 50 years. I've been doing it for 10 years. But it's a discipline that I do that takes care of mind, body, and spirit, which includes spirit dancing, spirit baths, all of those things that we're bringing back into our life form. It was a way of life that was almost lost, but we were carrying on that tradition.
The residential school monument, it's a beautiful piece of stone that's 80 million years old, excavated from just across the way in Texada. And the monument was carved by a man who's widely recognized for his talent, Michel Beauvais. This is the story of that rainy afternoon when this monument was dedicated.
Today I welcome you to this special ceremony. We come together for the unveiling of this beautiful monument. This is a moving tribute to the shishalh survivors of the residential school and other survivors throughout Canada. The school was established on this very section of land in 1904. My story begins when I was only 6 years old. 1946. I was removed from my home, my family. As Aboriginal, Indigenous, First Nations people, we suffered. Sir John A. Macdonald, the first Prime Minister of Canada, said, and I quote, "I think we must, by slow degrees, educate generation after generation until the nature of the animal almost is changed by the nature of the surroundings. Kill the Indian in the child. The residential school has cast a long shadow over our community. The residential school is one of the worst racist institutions created by the federal government, and it goes hand in hand with all the religious denominations that help run and operate those schools. Cultural genocide. Remember that, cultural genocide."
Taking our culture away, removing our language, teaching us a new way of life and Christianity, and taking away our art, our culture, the way we dressed, the way we walked. All those things were taken away from our people. So they were trying to erase not only a culture of our people, but a way of life
For the next part of our ceremony, we're going to call forward 4 of our speakers from the shishalh Nation, 4 survivors of the residential school. This is really the first time they've shared their story, so we truly are in the middle of our healing process, and you're here with us, and we thank you.
I was in here for 10 years. And I witnessed and was a victim myself in all the abuses. The most significant one, which a lot of our First Nations people went through, was the sexual abuse.
On the very first week, I was told I was a sinner. I had no idea what that meant. During my 8 years, that was repeated and repeated to me, like brainwashing me. I was a sinner. The worst day of my life was when I was about 10 years old. We watched the kids all weekend, and we were late for school that Monday morning. As I knocked on the door, the priest answered. Then he dragged me inside his office and screamed at me. He screamed obscenities, called me a lazy savage, and told me I was not as important as his dog. Why was I even born? Because God did not love me. Then he raped me. The pain was so excruciating. I didn't understand what was happening. It terrified me to my core. After he finished, he let me go with a warning that this would happen again if I made one mistake. This devious act happened to everyone, not only me, to all our people. We were children. They could do anything to us.
We are supposed to be the children of God. Supposed to be, that's what they told us. We're the children of God. They're there to look after us. But they did this to us. I hated the church. I hated the Catholics. I hated the priests. I hated the nuns. For the longest time. Maybe there's some Catholics here, I'm sorry. But now I have forgiven them. After all these years, I started to forgive them.
I blame so many for what happened to me, but most of all, I must forgive myself. It was not our fault. Everybody who went to residential school, it was not your fault.
I am a survivor, and I can only move forward. The healing journey is going to carry on for all our people across Canada.
We have come full circle with this memorial, but there's been a lot of tears and a lot of hurt going through this 100 years. They say it's going to take 7 generations to get this out of us, you know, and this monument, by the time I'm gone from this world, will be still standing here, and they will have the stories, and the main story is that this will never happen to our people again.
I want to thank our survivors for their stories today, because each and every survivor has a story to tell. And you got a sample of what our people had to endure in order to get here to where we are today. And you see the rain, it's the tears of our ancestors today, because they had to go through so much for us to stand here today. But we're moving forward, but it's with the help of all of our communities that's the only way reconciliation is going to happen.
The true history of residential schools, what residential schools did to our people, had to be told and written in our history books, so this will never happen again to anyone.
And that's the story of the residential monument, which will stand for all time as a memorial to what was not only a tragedy, but it was really a Holocaust in its own right. So, Chief, rather than dwelling necessarily on what was done, because there's no way it can be fixed, there's no way it can be recanted, all you can do is hope the healing begins. And there is a way, you're hothousing children now. There's a brand new school, and basically children are getting off on the right foot. It's in total contrast to children who were in residential school, but it must give lightness to your heart to see the laughter and the joy coming from the Monumental Child Development Center. It's a brand new building, beautifully done. It's got a roof that is the latest in technology. It's a roof with plants and grass on it, because that's probably the greatest insulator of all. So it must be, I mean, it happened during your reign. You can always point to that building and say, we began something very special there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very proud of what our people have done. They've built a new child development center, which is going to allow the young children to be able to understand who they are. They're going to be able to not only understand who they are, but to express. They will express their own language. They're going to have the freedom of speaking their language. They're going to have a freedom to have cognitive thinking and developing their very own characters. And those are going to be nourished by the professional staff that we surrounded with them. There is a very professional staff of our people that are providing that to them. And it's going to rebuild our people to a level where it was lost many thousands of years ago.
It's interesting that the curriculum in that Child Development Center is one from Europe. It basically boils down to children find their own passion, Chief, and then they're instructed and guided, rather than putting you into a desk and say, okay, you're going to sit there and listen because this hour we're doing math. If the child is in the mood to do something different, it's allowed. And I think that's a very good way for children to be educated. And this particular opening day it was an extraordinary moment that will last for all time. The hothouse for bringing better children to the nation, called Monumental Child Development Center.
As the chief of the nation, I want to thank you all for coming forward and participating and taking the time out to help us celebrate. We're celebrating a new child development center. It's a state-of-the-art, and we are modernizing the programs that we need to do to develop our children properly for the future. The future has changed so much over the last 50 years. The way we started 50 years ago was in a barn. The barn was part of the residential school. But the people had the vision to change things then. And today, I want to welcome you all for being here and sharing this momentous occasion with us. It is a momentous occasion because we are stepping into a new era. And I want to congratulate not only the staff, the education people, our engineers. There was a lot of thinking, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into the generation of this building, and a lot of planning, a lot of changes over the last 10 years. I especially want to thank the grade 12 students. They're all here today. The grade 12 students helped to do part of the landscaping, and congratulations to the staff. I'm sure they're going to be happy here for the next 50 years. Shishalh.
It's been so exciting today. This is something that we've been waiting for such a long time. It's so exciting to move into such a beautiful facility and really focus on children's development, helping them develop their own style of learning. At the old center, what we could do was so limited because of the space. We were very crammed. So coming into this beautiful facility, it's going to be just great for the kids. They're going to have so many opportunities. We're so excited.
The building itself is a very unique building. It's been almost a year of constructing it. One of the interesting things is the grass roof, and the roof, of course, helps to keep the building cool in the hot summer and keeps it warmer in the winter.
So this is really an environmentally safe building. For an example, the lights are all on sensors, so when you go into the rooms and leave the rooms, the lights will go off and on. Of course, we have tons of skylights to let as much sunlight into all of the spaces as possible. You see all of our doors all open wide so that there is not a square classroom, that really the outside and inside are the same. So we want to be outside as much as possible with the kids exploring the environment that we're in. The second floor is multi-purpose rooms. It's 2 multi-purpose rooms, and a majority of it will be used for family nights. It's designed for a number of activities. Our target date is September 8th. We initially wanted to be open September 1st, but because of construction delays and moving delays, we're hoping to be open September 8th. Our capacity at this point is we will have 40 children attending 5 classrooms. We are licensed for 79 children, and that's from infant to 3 and 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm sending both my daughters here. I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and yeah, I'm really happy they're here. I only live down the block, so it's a nice ability to see that they're in such a great facility. And I've already showed them the building, so they're really happy. Like really smiling, really happy. They're looking forward to coming to school here. Teaching is all about interaction with these kids, and these kids have, such a great facility now, but they've always been learning right from the beginning. So this is just another step in our nation's history to kind of continue that tradition of teaching them our culture and education of the greater community.
I'm just thrilled to see this building. We really appreciate the partnership that we have with the Shishalh Indian Band, and so coming to see this facility and knowing that the children are going to be so beautifully supported within the community is just really inspirational. From an educator's point of view, it couldn't be better. Just a beautiful, beautiful facility for young children.
It brings tears to my eyes to look around and think, wow, my kids could have had this, but my grandchildren are going to be here, so I'm so excited.
Isn't that wonderful to see all those cute little kids? Does it make you want to have a couple more, Chief? I guess that's the answer.
No.
Well, you look at them, you just want to hug them. Maybe not have any more. But it's a wonderfully joyful opening, and everybody was very, very happy. And speaking of unveilings, Chief, just prior to that, what I thought was a real shift, because it had been requested for a very long time, the hospital changed its name.
Yeah, our elders who recognized that our people had donated that land for a purpose, and they wanted to have the recognition that they were participating in the wellness and the healing of our people. So a simple thing like a name change was all they were asking, which took a few years to do, but that was accomplished last year. And there was an unveiling of the totem poles that Vancouver Health accommodated and paid for. And now that signifies that that hospital not only is a part of our people, but it's part of our healing. And I think that was commendable by the community.
This is what it looked like when the dedication ceremony went on and those poles were unveiled, and it was a highly significant day, and we are going to share it with you now.
We loved the people that were around us. We wanted to work together to create something beautiful, something meaningful, and something together. This is what I'd like to see this represent. When people drive past here at night, and it shines a lot better at night. This is what I want them to feel. So if there's anything that you can take away from this talk and this presentation, it's just that. We're stronger together. We need to work together.
Today is the unveiling of the 3 poles and the mural that was done in the hospital, and it goes back a few years, and I really think it goes back to the 60s when our elders came together with the community to pass donating 10 acres of land to the hospital to have a centrally located hospital, because they had to drive 2.5 hours to get to the hospital on a dirt road. When it went to referendum, everyone that voted in favor of it. So a few years ago, when they were designing the expansion, the hospital came and had a meeting with the band and a ceremony reaffirming the commitment to the band, and involved us in the design of the wing. And our elders asked to have some recognition of our culture. So the 3 poles symbolize the artwork in the mural. The mural is just gorgeous outside, and so are the poles, because the carvers have brought them back to life and carved stories and legends into those poles. And even when you see the canoe inside in the hospital, which the mural is in, where everybody's paddling together, there's a lot of times you're not going to agree on everything that's being done, but when you stop paddling or when you fall out of that canoe, you should be focusing on how you can get back into that canoe and how we can work together and paddle together in the same direction.
I think today is a symbol of friendship, partnership, and collaboration of, the municipality, Shishalh First Nation, and the people of the Sunshine Coast working together and looking at developing some history and some culture with the totem poles and the wall mural. It's just incredible to hear the story of what the poles symbolize, what the mural symbolizes, and really puts the true imprint of our rich history and culture of our First Nations identities and peoples, sharing it with everybody in their daily lives of when they come to the hospital to be able to get health services.
Today was the final ceremony of presenting our poles to the community. The one that I'm standing in front of directly is the welcome pole. It has its arms out, reaching out, welcoming people. Come in, we'll take care of you in every which way possible. The welcome pole took me approximately 6 weeks. The healing pole took me approximately a year. The healing pole, which means so much because of the area that the hospital stands, was part of the residential school, and not just healing us in our health and that, but healing our people because of the residential school.
Even having the ceremony of changing the name of the hospital from St. Mary's to Shishalh Hospital has meant a lot to our community, and it erases another layer of the residential school era, which is so important to our people to begin that healing journey and that reconciliation with the greater community.
Today was one beautiful event, and I enjoyed all the speeches. They put everything across to the people, and I'm really proud of the two carvers today. To see this today, the three poles, and they explained each figure, which is really good. And it's true that we to have stories on totem poles and talking sticks. And my hands go up to everybody that appeared today for this beautiful event. And we had a beautiful day to have it too.
Oh, I think it's a beautiful day. Even the wind's going along with us. Nice warm wind.
It's been a beautiful day today, and I'm sure happy to be part of it. I didn't miss out on anything. I enjoyed the speeches and everything.
The Coast Salish culture is actually distinguished from a lot of cultures in that our strengths were based on newcomers. We would welcome people from different cultures. So when Europeans came here, they found an extremely welcoming society. There was a culture that came in here, and I speak from both cultural sides, that decided that one of my sides of my culture had absolutely nothing to offer for some reason. It was wrong, and when we reflect on that, we know it's wrong. When we look at any culture, we're stronger together. We're always stronger together. When we designed this piece, it was about reflecting on old Coast Salish values, but bringing in non-Indigenous values as well, about togetherness and unity.
What I really love about the Aboriginal art, or the First Nations art that we have here, is the great symbolism that it brings. When Tony was talking about the healing pole, I found that really touching, because he incorporated the staff that work within the hospital as part of the totem, and that made me feel really good. It does make it feel like we're really working together in the hospital to provide care to the residents of the Sunshine Coast.
I think what it shows is that, we're getting beyond the stereotyping, the misunderstanding of our people, and this is a symbol of educating society that, there's rich history, there's rich culture. Each one of these pieces of art has a story, and part of the story is talking about
the ancestors and the history of the land that are so prominent on the west coast here. So very proud to be a part and witness the ceremony. But times are changing. Us First Nations people, we are not going anywhere. Society's not going anywhere. So finding the balance, and what a great way to find balance right here today.
A great story about a hospital that changed its name out of respect for your nation. The Monumental Child Development Center, I mean, that's a tribute to, again, the nation, and the nation under your leadership. And the residential monument, a lot of people worked on that. A lot of people brought it to fruition, but again, it falls within the tenure of your leadership. And I guess it's fair to say now you're going to switch gears, because now that these are all segments of healing, you're going to bring healing to your community.
I think because our people are pointed in the right direction, the economics and the lifestyle is going to improve for all of our people. We need to focus on the healing of our people. I've always expressed that when I became the chief, that our people need to consider that they have to start healing. With the brainwashing and the experience that happened in the residential school, we have to go back and we have to deal with that so that our people will have a bigger, brighter life ahead of them, and their children will too.
A wonderful expression of a vision of Chief Calvin Cragen, and that's our show for today. We'll see you back real soon. Thanks for watching.
The future has changed so much over the last 50 years. It is a momentous occasion because we are stepping into a new era.
First Nations people have been talking to us, and we are listening to their voices because they have such a profound attachment to the earth.
I think it's time. I think it's time we really start understanding that as we move forward, we need to do so together.
And we're going to be building a great future for our people.